this is Kim Paint Me, and this is a tutorial suggested by B. Alexander on how to draw Afro Puffs. Okay, so you want to start off with your head, and you want to kind of figure out where you want to put your puffs. You can put them way down there, or you can bring them up on top, kind of like Mickey Mouse ears. This is a style that's usually for little girls with very kinky, fluffy hair. And your Afro Puffs can be as fluffy as you want. And you want to start off with a really light circle, maybe kind of like an oblong. Give yourself a hairline, and usually the hairline dips in and out. I'm giving her kind of like a widow's peak. And hair is usually pulled back, so it's going to be pretty tight to the scalp. So go ahead and draw your hair tight to the scalp, and then the Afro Puffs are really super loose, and then they're pulled to the sides there. Now you want to keep an eye out for where you're putting them, so I'm really lightly drawing in Afro Puffs that are up at the top of the head, and you kind of want to stay centered on the sides of the head. When you're drawing a 3/4 view, you're going to cut off part of your Afro Puff, and the Afro Puff can be as thick as you want. And here I am, I'm doing like, you could do a tiny one, or you can do a fluffy one. So yeah, you could do little small ones, you can get medium-sized ones, and then you could just go crazy. You just make it as big and as puffy as you want. This technique, you can do it on any size of the hair. So, but right now I'm going to focus on doing Afro Puffs up at the top. So kind of imagine a girl with puffy hair, almost like the Mickey Mouse ears, and it's very thick, and it's round, and it's very tightly curled. And what you're going to be drawing are squiggles. Squiggles is what gets you the Afro Puff look, to get the textured, kinky hair that renders the puffs. So what I'm doing is I'm just going to erase a few lines and just try to focus on doing the puffs. Now you want to get kind of, you want to make them look fluffy. So go ahead and do some squiggly lines, little round tight circles around the puff itself. Oh, and also you have different things that you can do for the baby hairs in the front. You can do little jagged lines coming down and around the hairline, and that gives you the baby hair. You can style those any way you want. You can also give your character bangs, any kind of like hair that dangles down. Okay, so once you figure out what you want to do for your part, you just go ahead and start to figure out where you're going, how big your puffs are going to be. So I'm going to have them about this big, maybe a little bit bigger, and I'm just making them really soft lines around the outside. Now you got to have a light source so that you can give your puffs 3 dimensions. And what I usually do is have it light on top, because the sun's on top, or light sources are above you. So all the light above is going to give a highlight to the top. And then as you come away from the light, it gets darker, darker, and then it starts to lighten up when it gets to the edges. So what I do is I'm drawing a really light swiggle around the edges. It'll be darkest and dense in the middle, and then it'll lighten up again near the edges where the lights are. And this is the lightest area there, and the light's coming down that way. So when you start to draw, just draw little squiggly lines. I'm going to do, one side is going to be more realistic, and the other side is going to be more cartoony, and different ideas of how you can do a quick cartoony type Afro Puff. Okay, so where I say it's dark or darker, that's where I'm going to make the tightest curls. Around the edges is where it's going to be the lightest. And it's just an idea of where, how dense the curls are going to be. Okay, here's where your puff is, and I'm just going to lightly shade it in. And you want to kind of think in 3 dimensions when you draw. When you're closest to the head, it's going to be dark because it's going to have reflection from, it's going to give you the shadow around the ball. Okay, so just make little tight circles. The kinkier you want it, the more dense you want it, the deeper, the darker the circle in the center. And you just want to keep overlapping them until you have very little white paper in the center. So you see how I'm just doing like little tight circles like that? And around the edges where it's lightest, you're going to do littler circles or less overlapping, so you have more whiteness in it. So these are curls. And also the looser curls, you can see them a lot better and they don't overlap as much. But this is a deep, dense Afro puff where you're, and then there's the curl right there. And they're more like C shapes. You just do a lot of C shapes on top of each other. Darkest near the bottom, lighter near the top. You can also do little tick marks going around in circles. To give you the curl look. So you have a couple different ways you can tackle it. I like doing the dense circles over each other to give the hair texture and thickness. Where you start is up to you. I'm going to start in the darkest part and then I'll go light from that. So I'm just pretty much just do random circles. This kinky hair goes wherever kinky hair wants to go. So you just keep doing overlapping circles until it's as dense, as dark as you want it to be. The lighter the hair, the less overlapping, less darkness. The darker the hair, you just want to keep overlapping until you cover up all the white spots in the center of the darkest spot. And then you want to do it less as you go closer to the light. So deeper, darker in the center, and then lighten up your pencil strokes as you get towards the light, or the edges of your puff, just so that it looks like it's really dense and then there's a little light coming through around the outside. It gives it that fluffy, fluffy look. And to get that, also you want to vary your pressure on where your dense, darker circles are. You can start light and then get dark a couple times, get light, get dark a couple times, further away from the light that you are. So you're going to press the lightest at the top, and press the medium at the bottom, and press hard in the center. And you could vary that so that you give your Afro puff a lot of texture. Now if I was doing a more realistic look, I would lightly sketch in the swirls around the edges. And that's as dark as it's going to be around the edges. Closer to the scalp or forehead, I would go ahead and probably make that a little darker because of the shadow, and then start building up my swirls from there. And you can have a lot of fun with Afro puffs. You can color them different colors. The center part could be a deeper, darker shade of maybe brown, and then have gold around the edges. I've done blue on the bottom, or blue on the top and purple on the bottom. You could also pick out pictures from real life and see how different hairstyles are. I've seen one with brown curly hair with gold highlights. and things like that. So you could also play with your Afro Puffs there. You could do kind of like little bows in it if you wanted to. You could put little things in there if you want to get really artistic. You could add little things inside the Afro Puff. What do you call those things? An Afro comb you could put in there with a little fist if you want, or just little bows or barrettes or things like that. Whatever your character calls for, whatever your imagination dreams up. And again, these Afro Puffs don't have to be this big, and they don't have to be, or they can be bigger. It's as big as you want them to be. So, and you see as close to the edge as possible without really, making the edge, and you can see where it's darkest and where it's lightest. You want to kind of have that delineation. If you have a tortillon, you can also color in the dense part and then come outwards so that you can give more depth and more dimension to your Afro Puff. But this is how I would do afros, kinky hair, and Afro Puffs. And it looks light and airy if you give yourself that lightness around the edges. And that's pretty much like a highlight around the edge. It's really dense. One side is more cartoony, and I'll show you more things that you can do with that to make it more of a cartoony look. Now, you also have a lot of play around the hair that's pulled back. You can make it into braids, and you want to show that it's pulled back. So if you do have a source image, look at the source image, how the hair is pulled back. Closest to the Afro Puff, it's darker because of the shadow, and it's lighter going towards the hairline. And you can build those up in layers. You can start dark at the puff, and then as you go, you want to keep it tight to the skin, and you want to go ahead and start drawing towards those lines, towards the Afro Puff, the lines going towards here. And since your head is round, a lot of your lines will be curved. You want to leave some spots for like highlights where the hair bends or the head bends and the light hits it, and you'll see it around different parts, like where the part is. You'll see like maybe a highlight there, and you just want to put like a few hairs there, not a whole lot, just a few, just to show that that's hair that's being highlighted. Again, close to the Afro Puff, you want to make those lines dark, and you want to come back towards the scalp and the hairline and the part. Sometimes when I do Afro Puffs, I like to do braids in there. You can even do the little kitchen naps in the back if you want. My mom used to pull at my hair like that. Or you could, or not, to give it a nice clean look. Again, you can also do bangs if you want. You can do dangly hairs, stray hairs. You can do whatever you want to the hair that's on the bottom there. So just vary your lines, vary your circles, your squiggles, to give it that wild texture. Vary the colors. You can have like a dark, if you're doing brown hair or shades of black, you can do like light, or leave that white and then black if you're doing a black and white type of thing. You just want your puff balls to be like puff balls, not like a Sailor Moon meatball head, because her hair is pulled around into a bun. This is a Afro puff. Just defining the hairline a little bit. You can do little straight hairs again. Give it little baby hairs. Or you can go all out and do a full bang. And just shade it as you will. Make sure that when you do a bang, you leave a little bit around the center for a highlight, or near the, so that, it reflects the light. However you decide to do your, accentuate your Afro puffs, or accentuate. And you can have ribbons dangling down if you want to add, something to cover up down near the bottom. Okay, so now some other ways of doing like a cartoony Afro puff is to just shade the whole thing in and then make little lines that annotate that it's kinky hair. So what I usually do is if I'm doing that sort of thing and I'm pressed for time and I'm just doing a little cartoon one, I color the whole thing in, and then leaving like the little swirly lines around the ball, color it in, and then in the darker parts I would put little swirls or little curls where just to annotate that it's a puff ball. And I do that near the bottom because that gives weight to the ball, and you just get away with it doing like that. And that's more of a cartoony look. Leave a little light on the top, and then just annotate where the curls are. So now you see what more of a realistic look is on the left, and a more cartoony look on the right. Okay, now I'm going to try to draw the puff balls in different, or the Afro puffs in different positions. When you're facing forward, depending on, just give yourself a hairline. Especially if you're going to be drawing your character in different positions. Head up, head down, things like that. She's going to have more of a jagged part and braids, so have your braids close to the head. This isn't a braid tutorial, I'm just annotating some lines where braids would be. They're really close to the head. And just remember that if it helps, you could also draw a line, but your head is round. Always keep that roundness, but give yourself plenty of room for the brain when you're drawing a head. Okay, and then just put your braids in around the hairline, and if you are doing it from the back or from the sides, make sure that you add that your hairline so you know where to start and stop. Now these Afro puffs are up on top of the head, and you gotta keep that roundness. So I just made it like a little round there, little sticks out a little bit further than the head itself. And you want to kind of keep them symmetrical on the side of the head, if that's the style. So, another way to keep it symmetrical is to keep them about the same height. And then you go ahead and fill in with your little swirls to get the dense texture. Just keep the outside light so it looks fluffy and airy. You shouldn't have really any straight lines in an Afro puff. Okay, so the hair from the back, if your head is tilted to the side, your Afro puffs will tilt to the side too, along with the side of the head. If they're above the ear, you want to keep them above the ear. You just want to kind of, when you're drawing it, you want to really maintain where the Afro puffs are going. Your Afro puffs can be as loose or as big as you want them to be. If you see my Captain Puff t-shirt video, I have very loose curls. They're dense and it's thick, but they're very loose curls. This one here is more of an afro. Okay, so from the side, you got to remember that it sticks out. It's its own little puff ball. You got to figure out how close to the front it comes. And you can see how it would fit on the head. Now, when they're about this size, you might see a little bit of the other side coming through as well. Usually from the top. So don't forget your hairline. Sometimes it's good to position, if you're doing the balls and you're not sure where to place them, you can place them right above the ears, a little off-centered from the top of the head. When you're looking at it forward, they look like they're kind of centered on the head, but actually looking at this one is a little bit like with the length of the ear, you know, from one end of the ear to the other, and a little bit higher and up to the side. Again, where you put your puff balls, how many you put in there, is up to you. Okay, and then here's like more of a looking down view. And you'll notice that the puff ball may obscure a little bit of your ears as you draw the different positions. And just have your braids, if you're drawing braids or your hair strokes, following the shape of the head and going towards the puff ball if you're going into the puff ball. If there's room for the ears, you know, you gave yourself space above the ears, you want to maintain that space. Okay, well that's pretty much how it's done. So I hope you have fun. Draw your puff balls. If you send me a link, I'd love to see them. And if this was a helpful video to you, please like and subscribe, and suggest if there's anything else that you'd like to see. And again, this is Kim Pinckney, and thank you so much for watching, and I hope that you have a great day. Bye-bye.